Hello and welcome to Season 6 of Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. Introducing corporate leaders who have taken the leap to business owner and celebrate their great idea in our guest blog, found on shareyourstories.online. Our guest joins us from Sedona, Arizona. James Kawainui is a Hawaiian healer going back 20 generations in Hawaii. He uses ancient wisdom to connect with business executives, practitioners, and individuals to build confidence, clear boundaries, and improve communication skills. Let's find out how James was able to shift his focus from corporate boardroom to finding his ancestral roots and sharing ancient wisdom mentoring for modern living. It is my pleasure to welcome and introduce everyone to James.
Aloha nui loa kako. That means hello and aloha to all of you.
Well, that's a really wonderful way to start our conversation, because I have to say that I'm very respectful and curious about the ancient wisdom that you bring to your business, James. And one of the things that you mention on your website, and I'm going to use the quote that you use, it says, "We all need an interpreter of life's mysteries." Perhaps to start our conversation, you can give our viewing and listening audience an indication as to what that means.
I'd love to. Thank you. What I meant when I wrote that, it was actually that came from a testimonial of this amazing person that she and I have known each other for over 15 years.
Wow.
And she, friend and actually client of mine. And I asked her, and she said, "This is what you helped me do." And there's places inside of our lives, and I look at it this way, that they're blind spots that we have in our life. And sometimes getting through those blind spots, especially if you're a business person or you're an entrepreneur or you're running a company, there inevitably will be blind spots inside of where we are in ourselves. And to be able to have somebody that has an outside perspective, somebody that can see in some ways the broader picture than we are able to, is really helpful, because it helps give us an understanding of ourselves and maybe of the things that we're wanting to create or accomplish that will help propel us into that, I guess, into success is one way of looking at it.
You know, one of the things you shared in your guest blog is that you had quite a personal journey yourself, right? You sort of lived on a beach for a number of years to kind of connect back to your ancestral roots, and then you moved back to the mainland in the US. So what was that transition? What was the light bulb moment that said, "James, just like pack up and go back to where your ancestors came from and learn a little bit about the ancient wisdom"?
My journey from corporate into the space that I am now, into being in business for myself, is really, I would say, unusual, and it's not something that most people go through. But I was an executive in a multi-million-dollar a year company. I had 3 departments that I was in charge of. I answered to the president of our division, and I had lots of responsibilities. And so I worked on average a 60-hour work week. So trying to juggle everything. And slowly what happened is, and my ex-wife said this to me, she said, "I see your soul dying," is what she said to me one day. And I thought that was pretty profound, coming from somebody
No kidding.
in a lot of ways that was, lived like I did then, which is pretty unconsciously. And one Friday evening, I had something that absolutely changed everything. And I was sitting at home, and it was after a really long week, and I was miserable and not very happy. And I had what people call a clairaudient experience, and a little bit more. I had somebody reach out, and I felt a hand tap me in the back of the head, and I heard a voice that said, "It's time to go home." And I turned and I looked at her and I said, "What the F are we doing here?" And she said, "I don't know. This is your idea." And I stood up and I went into the kitchen and I called my sister and I said, "Who's living at the beach house?" And she said, "Nobody." And I said, "I think I'm coming home." And I walked into my boss's office the next day and I quit my job.
Wow. That is a pretty profound thing to have happen.
I mean, that in that, and I'm writing a book right now on the traditional practice of Ho'oponopono. And in the book, the way that I describe it is that in that moment, it felt like my whole world fell apart and came back together in a completely different way. And I knew that I could not do the thing that I had been doing. And I had been chasing this dream for a really long time. And I realized that it wasn't really the dream that I wanted. And so when that when that tap in the back of the head came, it was really, it got me, I guess, in my most vulnerable place. So
Sure.
that the only thing that I could do was follow that guidance. And that was 25 years ago when I did that. And I did not know what was happening. I had known prior to that there were these inklings, there were these, I don't know, you could say nudges that were happening. And I did not realize it until then that my ancestors had been trying to contact me, communicate with me for a number of years. And that was kind of the beginning. And so my work now is really around that relationship that I have with my ancestors. They literally speak through me to the things and the people that I work with on a daily basis, and again, it's not the typical journey that people will go through, to get
But
to
I
that
have to
place.
say, there's lots of us, James, that have been in that place where we're sitting in the corporate boardroom, or, like 97% of the stories that we share are from corporate leaders who've making the leap to business owner. So there's clearly a number of individuals who have that aha moment that are sitting in their corporate office or like you at home, and they start to question, why? Why am I doing this? It doesn't
Why?
serve me anymore, right? I'm not happy. I'm confused. I'm feeling out of place. And yet, you actually take the leap that you did to
I don't
actually,
suggest I don't suggest this to a lot of
it's
people because
hard to do.
it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. But give me an indication as to, okay, so we'll use me as an example. So here I am, I come to you, I'm confused. I say to you, listen, I know that this is not right for me. I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to go. I'm having problem communicating. I can't focus. I'm feeling, kind of discombobulated. What are some of the things that you would connect with to that individual client or corporate executive or just individual, and help them with to get the conversation started?
When people show up, especially people in the business world, what I've seen, and this is very typical, on a broad spectrum. There's success, there's material success. They have the trappings of life, and yet they unconsciously know that there's something missing, and the something missing is the spiritual connection. And so and it doesn't matter, practitioner, individual, business person, it's bringing you back to the space where we create that spiritual connection. Because in that spiritual connection, and the way that I would talk about this, and your connection to your higher aspect of who you are, because that is the part of you that can really see and be forward thinking. And yet there are pieces and patterns and stories and energy or emotions that keep us trapped. And so all the things that you're talking about are all the emotions that keep us trapped inside of that. And as we learn to see and understand how and why they show up, and then the important piece is having the tools to be able to move through them, that's when we start to make really, I would say, profound transformation in our life.
I think what, if I was to interpret what you're trying to explain, it would be when we're trying to focus on our purpose,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely. Because just because we have success doesn't mean that we found our purpose. Just because we have success doesn't mean that I absolutely know what my why is.
Correct.
And we get to a point in our lives, I think, when we hit that middle age, 40 to 60 or 65, when we start looking at legacy. What have I made a difference? in my world, in my life, in the life of the people that are around me, especially as a business leader. To get to that place is very profound, to the place where I go, am I making a difference in the things that I'm doing and the people that in some ways, as a business leader, you are a steward to everyone that's underneath you. And so if you look at it in that way, that you are helping not only yourself but everybody else to grow and to become more amazing versions of themselves, right? I watch businesses all the time change when they get to that place because
You
they
know, I
think,
have to say, is it an age thing? Because completely and totally agree with you. It's almost like we get to an age and stage in life where we say, what do I want the next 20 years to look like? Or what do I want to let the next 30 years look like? Like, what am I leaving behind? And it's that questioning time that seems to come after, we'll call it the youth of success, because we seem to get to a certain pinnacle at a certain age, right? Like, you're kind of in that space, you're in the zone almost when you get into your 30s, right? You've taken some hard knocks, you're appreciating your success, you're, as you say, connecting with the material things that we all find or we're all striving for. And then all of a sudden we go, I'm not so sure this was really what it was all cracked up to be, right? So would you say your ideal client is that individual between 40 and 60?
it is. And interestingly enough, primarily women, although I'm really working to change that because I really want men to step into this place of being able to not just be vulnerable, but be able to look at this piece and go, okay, what am I? What am I doing? What am I leaving? In Hawaiian culture, it actually there are actually transitions that we talk about. So you as an elder, I mean, as a child, you're a keiki, but when you get to a point in your 30s, 40s, what they call as makua, you become um, mature and elder, right?
Right.
And then as you step into becoming a kupuna, which is an elder, in my tradition, as an elder, there is an inferred responsibility of carrying the wisdom and the knowledge and the information that you've gained over a lifetime into the next generation to help them come up. And so I think unconsciously inside of human beings, we all have that piece that's wired into us. I think it's a DNA. It's actually in our DNA to do that. And that's why we get to that point in our lives where we kind of go, okay, what am I doing? What am I leaving? How am I operating? And one of the things that in Hawaii we talk about is pono. Am I in pono? Am I in relationship? Am I in balance and harmony with myself? And when I am in balance and harmony with myself, then I am in balance and harmony with the world around me. And so it's that place where we come to where self-reflection inevitably becomes part of our lives for most people, not for everybody, but for most people.
Do you think there's a gender difference? You mentioned that most of your clients are women, and I think women intuitively become, or perhaps are a little bit more open because there's a lot of change and transformation that happens in their lives at that time. And is it that we don't give men the opportunity to sit back and reflect because there's a different sort of feeling that we have against men? And when you put all the dominoes in effect, that what's the success ratio? Where are they going? What are they doing? Do we not give them an opportunity to reflect? And is it then incumbent on you as a mentor to these individuals to help folks to break the barrier of sharing stories? Because really, that's how we support and learn from one another, right?
Every indigenous tribe, every indigenous culture use story as a way of passing knowledge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we don't hear them. We don't hear
But,
the stories.
but we don't hear the stories. And going back to your question, though, we actually don't have time to talk about all that today because there are fundamental differences in the way that men and women think, and it's fundamental difference. And for women, you go through biological changes. So it's in
Right.
some ways it's a natural progression to step into
Right.
that place because there are biological things happening in your body that actually help with the transition. In
Right.
men, not so much in
Right.
that way. And also we have societal role models that we've created over thousands of years of roles and responsibilities.
That's
And
right.
really what's happening in our lifetime is those roles and responsibilities are really falling apart. And so that part of men not being vulnerable, of not showing weakness, is really starting to crumble because we're watching the effects of that not happening for generations, and literally the health effects that men die sooner than
Younger.
women do.
Yeah,
That
still.
that is one of those that is one direct correlation inside of that. And so
Mhm.
to come into that vulnerability, to step inside of that place, to really to for men to be able to own their intuitive ability, which women have naturally, right?
Right,
So
right.
that is a change, and that's what I'm watching, and that's in some ways wanting to be a steward and a guide of with the people that I work with.
Now, one of the things that you use, and I love the term because we use it all the time on our platform, is mentoring. And I love when you say mentoring for modern living because that means different things to different people. So explain to us, to our viewing and listening audience, how you feel your role as a mentor is, taking into consideration you have 20 generations of ancient wisdom that is supporting you on this journey. How would you describe that?
Hawaiians had a really amazing way of living because inside of Hawaiian culture, because of our isolation, there was a deep understanding of interdependency. And so that interdependency was essential to the survival of everyone. So when we're looking at that is realizing the interdependency that we have with the people that are around us and our responsibility to each other.
Mhm.
And so when I talk about ancient wisdom for modern living, what I'm actually talking about is taking those principles that come from my culture, and really that come from most indigenous cultures, and to put it into a modern context and say, hey, we came here to be in community, we came here to work together, and yet what we're watching in our modern lives is the fracturing of that and the separation and the isolation that we're having. And so it's about reintegrating those understandings because they're fundamental and they don't change over time, even though human beings and our idea of life and responsibility and importance changes. And so that's what I mean when I say that.
That's a really wonderful point because I think for me, what resonates is we're all looking for the same thing. We all want to be
Absolutely.
loved, right? We want friendship. We want compassion. We want empathy. We want connection. We want to be able to have these heartfelt conversations with people in our immediate, we'll call it social circle. And
Mhm.
the fracturing of life is getting the better of us, right? We're seeing so much more isolation happening with folks sort of withdrawing from society because they don't feel that they fit in. So I love that the fact that you're taking things that we are all looking for and putting some context to them so that it starts new conversations and helps people to overcome some of those obstacles. So thank you so much for sharing that because I think that's really important for us all to understand that, I use this phrase now all the time. We're all so different and yet the same.
I used to say same thing. I wrote, it was a closing chapter of my book, and I said that. I said, if you look under the surface, we are all looking for the same thing,
Mhm.
connection, to be seen, to be appreciated, and to be supported. That's really what we're looking for.
So
And
true.
and our modern lives and technology has done this amazing thing, has brought us closer together and put us farther apart because of the polarity of points of view and people getting to the place in some ways of if you don't agree with how I think, then I'm not going to relate to you. And
Right.
it's it's really doing our best to look at that and go, wait a minute, where can we find it? And this is really what we do. And you do this in business and you do this in negotiation and you do this in every places. Where can we find common ground and where can we come to a place of mutual respect?
That is so true.
I believe that that's the starting point for all of this.
Well, I would like to sort of summarize our conversation with your 3 words of advice, because believe it or not, I really feel that our conversation has taken us to your 3 words, which are positive affirmations work. So perhaps to wrap up your wisdom with our viewing and listening audience, you can share with us why those 3 words are important for you.
It all comes down to mindset. Everything is energy, and if you look at it as everything in energy, so energy turns into matter. The way that that happens is through our thoughts and our actions and our words. And so what I tell people is to really become aware of the words that they use, because if you're using negative words, then you're affirming negative things in your life. If you're using positive words, then you really are sending subliminal messages, not just to you, but to the people that you're speaking with, of those positive affirmations. And so positive affirmations work is this understanding that our mindset really is the vehicle for success or not.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a really wonderful way for me to thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today, because you've given us lots of really wonderful things to think about. And I think it's the beauty of connection. And really what you're helping clients do is make a connection with who they are and where they would like to go. And I love your comment about being the person who sort of looks from the outside in, because the things that you see are the things that we don't see.
I think that if whoever listens to this, if you walk away with one thing that just causes you to pause and go, I'm going to think about that, then my job's done. I've done what I came here to do today. So thank you so much, Trish, for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. And to our viewing and listening audience who joined us today, I'd like to thank you for connecting with us for this edition of Keeping It Real, introducing you to the person behind the logo. If you'd like to connect with our guest, you'll find James' contact information in the description portion below. I'm Trish Tonai, author, artist, and the founder and host for the series, and we invite you to share your business story. Just visit our website at shareyourstories.online and subscribe to our channel, Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. James and I would like to thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.
Aloha, everyone.